feel we live in a world where people want to water down their goals out of fear of not reaching them. And so I love that you were like so cheerful in supporting my goals, which is how I try to work with my business coaching and consulting clients. Like, yeah, you want to make $1 million? Why aren't we making 1 million? You want to make 10 million? Why aren't we making 10 million? Let's figure it out. Introducing the Vixen Voice, a podcast for ambitious women entrepreneurs ready to move into their feminine essence, live their truth, and unlock their full potential. I'm your host, April Roberts, and each week I'll be interviewing inspiring women who decided to take a leap of faith to pursue their dream. Women who believe that they were born for something bigger. Hey there, just popping in quickly. It's April Roberts, and I wanted to thank you for being a loyal listener of the Vixen Voice. It means so much to me. And because of that, we're going to be popping in these little announcements because I want you to be the first to know what's going on at the Vixen Gathering. So if you haven't done so yet, click the link below and check out the Vixen Founders Collective. The members who are already in are raving, and we would love to have you join us in the ultimate business consulting, networking, and personal growth community for Gen X female founders. See you there. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Vixen Voice. Today's episode is near and dear to my heart. We are chatting with Elena Burkhart, who is a leading expert in weight loss, longevity, and wellness at SlimGe. In fact, she's the founder of SlimGe. But Elena has such an interesting background, as most of us do, so we're going to be diving in. I just want to share, as always, how I know her. My good friend Bex Wood, who you've heard of many times, said, I feel like you two women need to chat. I'm not really sure what's going on, but you need to chat.
We should.
And so I love it. So Elena and I got on a Zoom networking call. We didn't know where it was leading. And here she is chatting with us today about weight loss, genetics, longevity. And in fact, I have hired her to help me with my weight loss journey. So she's coming to you as an expert. But in the spirit of keeping things real, we'll share a little bit about my journey. And I think it's just been 2 weeks since we started, and I'm already getting great results. So really excited to dive in today. So Elena, welcome.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you for inviting me, April. And I'm so excited to be here and share what I know, my passion about helping mostly females how to, control the eating habits, how to look their best, how to feel great, and actually increase longevity.
I love it. And I'm just going to dive in and say, I love how you threw in their looks their best, because we live in a time where we've almost been shamed for wanting to look good, right? Like the tide has turned for women. I know.
It's looking your best.
100% agree.
So let me start a little bit from the beginning. I am actually from Ukraine. I grown up in Kiev, kind of in the Soviet Union time. And I think I graduated from Kiev University. I got a degree usually in journalism. And I think my first, everybody has a journey. And you remember this kind of most scariest intersection or milestone when you are just doing something maybe crazy or taking an enormous chance. So my first, I guess, is enormous chance I was taking moving to the United States. Imagine I don't speak English, and I find a job in a Russian-speaking newspaper.
Wow.
And here I am from a different planet, literally. It's Soviet Union time, 1994. And, moving to the United States. In Ukraine, we didn't even have a credit fund at the time.
Yeah.
So I had to learn not just new language, I had to learn how to actually function and operate in totally different system. And that was pretty scary, but it shapes you, toughen you up. You have to be adaptable, resilient. You just have to, fall on your face, pick yourself up and keep going. Right.
Yes.
So that was my kind of biggest thing. I worked as a writer for different Russian, Ukrainian newspapers, some in Kiev, some in actually in New York. But realistically, it's very difficult to make a living. And as much
Mhm.
as I love writing, and I still, writing is my happy place. That's why I like to write blogs and write a book right now because it's something I really enjoy. And
Mhm.
so at some point, I had to make decisions. So I need to, change my career.
Yeah.
But way back when I was, so in Soviet Union, we graduate from high school at 16. So you
Mhm.
make this big decision who you want to be at 16. And I remember staying on this intersection and thinking who I want to be. And I had two choices that I loved.
Yeah.
One was I wanted to be a writer, and my second one was actually medicine. My family, I have my father as a physician, my aunt, so it was very close home. And at this
Mhm.
time, I choose to become a writer. But so I was actually in my 30s, 32, 34, when I decided, okay, I need to change my career. And
Mhm.
again, imagine you have to go back to school. I had to do all this. I went to University of Texas in Austin. I had to take all this prerequisites. Please, they 19, 20 years old. And then I got accepted to University of Texas medical branch, I graduated. And that was big and scary too, being so much
Yeah.
older and make these changes. That was my second, intersection, like next milestone. But again, it shape you, make you tougher, stronger, more adaptable.
Mhm.
So for a while, actually, I worked for about 5 years, cardiovascular surgery. And this is first time I began to think about prevention. Imagine I was seeing a patient who has a last resort was already surgery, heart
Yeah.
surgery, cardiac bypass, or sometimes heart transplant. I actually participated in dozens of heart transplant operation.
Wow.
And this is people who has no other choice. And I was thinking at this point to myself, genetics play a big role, but it's also lifestyle choices,
Mhm.
right? And it's a lot of people who was on the operating table, they're overweight, they smoke, they drink, they don't exercise. They may be 40 years old, look like 60. And,
Mhm.
and I really kind of, in one hand, I really like to help, but I want to help to where it's matter. I want to prevent people ended up on operating table. So after working in cardiovascular surgery, I transitioned to cardiology. And I had a
Mhm.
little bit more, connection with, remember in surgery, you see people already
Yeah.
pretty much an operating room in a hospital, and then you let them go. In cardiology, you're more connected with your patient, but same story. People come, they overweight, they don't eat well, cholesterol is
Mhm.
high, blood pressure high, and only what we do, have another pill, and you have side effects, have another pill. And
Yes.
that was, I guess, kind of I don't want to use word religion, but kind of my mindset, because I really wanted to help people how to, what they can control, get it under control, and do what
Mhm.
they can do the best to prevent all this developing snowball in a chronic condition. And so I still work in cardiology when I began to implement what I was saying, considering my uh, wellness and weight loss program. But
Mhm.
what really, really surprised me, and remember, I'm in the mindset, suck it up, here's my meal plan, and just do your best.
Yeah.
And what I experience is I see some patients really wanted to change, but they will come after months for next appointment, and some few could make these changes. But
Mhm.
some just say, I can't. I'm too hungry. I just so feel tired in the evening. I can stress. I cannot control
Mhm.
myself. And some of these people, very successful,
Mhm.
very intelligent people who understand, I can see that they very has a self-control and willpower in the
Mhm.
different aspect of their life. But here is as the food concern, they just couldn't. And I began
Yeah.
more and more learn about genetic components. And I actually eliminated again my mindset, just suck it up and do it. What's wrong with you? And
Mhm.
actually, my parents kind of example. So I have my mom and dad. My dad always could say no easily to any kind of dessert. So even if he gained a pound or two, he's like, no, I'm not eating. Doesn't
Yep.
matter his favorite dessert, favorite food. No, I'm okay. I need to lose my 2 pounds. And he always maintained his weight, very handsome, tall, mom is opposite. She always would nibble, she excited about the food, and she began up to 40, dangerous time for females, right? Hormonal change. She began to gain weight, and she gained
Mhm.
weight, yeah, and she just couldn't. She would try so hard to lose the weight, and even I was able to couldn't help her. She just couldn't control herself on food.
Mhm.
So this another example, even on my own family, makes me think about it is something else in play than just sheer willpower.
Yes.
And yes, and so obesity, weight gain, and also comorbidity is right now not just big issue in the United States but globally, right?
Mm.
And there a lot of studies done, and actually genetic right now is this very big field that right now is advancing. And what we
Mhm.
learned something really amazing that it is something that our genetic that can predispose us to weight gain, controlling our appetite, even food we crave. So mostly when you catch yourself in front of refrigerator in the evening looking at ice cream, it's actually almost like your software running behind you,
Yeah.
making this decision, right? And sometimes it is not really in your control. But it's very
Mhm.
important to recognize it and remove the sense of, guilt and worthlessness, what people who is constantly trying to lose weight go through,
Yeah.
and just acknowledge like this is my makeup, this is how I'm going to deal with that,
Yeah.
right? So, for example, right now we can test, remember genetic field developing. So every year it's new genes appear that actually link to weight gain risk. But right now, currently, we're testing 7 genes. And
Mhm.
every single gene plays some important role. And I will tell you about one really most probably significant. It's called FTO, like a fat gene, right? And you can have 2 different variants. So one,
Mm.
imagine this, compare this, like you can have a green eyes or you can have brown eyes. So it's like sometimes you can see, sometimes that. And
Right.
if you have this risk variant, the way it influences you just remarkable. Number one, it just makes your metabolism slower. So if you,
Mhm.
for example, you eating well, your friend being exactly the same, your friend maintaining your weight, but you are gaining, and you're like, what's wrong? And actually, your calorie requirement per day could be less, so 300 less. So, for
Yeah.
example, for most females after 40, metabolism should be around 1700, right?
Mhm.
But if you're 400 and you eat in the same way, you will gain weight and you will be puzzled why. The second component of this shit, what's remarkable too, it's actually increased impulsivity around food.
Mhm.
So, for example, 2 people, again, my mom and my dad, right? For example, you show them their favorite dessert, and the one person brain just light up, the reward
Yeah.
center light up just a little bit, 40, 50%. And when it light up a little bit, you still can override it with the executive kind self-control. But person who has this F2 variant, this reward center gets so light up, go 90, 100%. It is no amount of willpower can actually override it. And this person, it's just the way he fired. And he could be
Mhm.
really, really have great self-control in studying in some different aspects, but this is just the way it is. When I create a weight loss treatment plan, when I
Mhm.
see your gene, I will incorporate some strategy that will help
Mhm.
this person. So, for example, if you have this impulsivity, you should not keep any fruit that you have very difficult time to control in your house
Mhm.
because it just will eat
Yes.
you and make it very, very extra challenging. Why should you make it more difficult for yourself? So this kind of little, you know, first understanding the core reason.
Yeah.
Second, knowing how to address it, because just test without practical application useless, right? So we need to know. So we
Yeah.
identify it and then we address it, right? Yes.
Hmm.
So I can talk about, genetic and everything. I just want to mention something else about the DNA-based meal plan, what actually
Hmm.
we do in my clinic too. And I found it quite incredibly helpful tool. And again, I'll start with a story. I like stories. I think they're very great examples. When I started field working in cardiology before I started my practice for weight loss and longevity, I remember vividly I had these three patients, very wonderful, three females, about same age, really motivated to lose weight. And I remember I just designed this really kind of Mediterranean based, but very good meal plan.
Hmm.
And all of them, they got the plan, they started about the same time. And I remember 3 months later, I was seeing them every month, but 3 months later, it was my checkpoint to see the results. And I remember my first patient, she lost 15 pounds or 3 months, and I remember she was telling me, I feel so great on this diet. Just make me feel, so satisfied. I feel so healthy, and she looked glowing. That was a great meal plan. My second patient, she did okay. She lost about 9 pounds. She was okay. She plateaued and she was a little bit hungry, but it was
Yep.
satisfactory. So, but my last patient, she struggled. Same plan. And she just felt hungry. She lost only 5 pounds. She began to gain it back. It just didn't feel good for her.
Hmm.
At this time, and it was about 7 years ago, I was trying to figure out why such different results. And the
Yeah.
only actual reason I come out with, I thought she probably did not really follow my meal plan. I thought it just no way. This is good meal plan. She probably just did not follow it. Maybe she was snacking extra. And years later, and I began to use genetic tests to create the weight loss based on genetic, I actually retested my patient. And the
Hmm.
result did not surprise me, quite intuitively what I anticipated after
Hmm.
I learned so much about genetic and DNA-based meal plan. So if you think about, we all came from different regions, right?
Hmm.
So if you think about, for example, a Mediterranean, right? It is a long summer. It's a lot of vegetables. It's a lot of fruits. It's a lot of seafood, right? And if you're ancestors from this region, they used to eat this type of food very near sources for about
Hmm.
10,000 years, right? So your digestive system, your genetic makeup optimal for this specific NERA food choices, right? If
Hmm.
your ancestors, for example, from Canada, right, or Ireland, that will be different story. It's a long, harsh winter. It is not as much fruits and vegetable choices. In order to survive, you have to eat a lot of fat, a lot of
Yeah.
pork, a lot of starches. Totally different diet. And again, for 10,000 years, your digestive system will selectively, genetically pick and right, enzymes to digest this type of food, right? What happens now? We have Chinese food, we have Italian food, we have pretty much, you name it. It's all kind of like a salad of all the different culture. What is great, it's good to be exposed to different culture cuisines, but we have a lot of food allergy right now. We have a
Hmm.
lot of chronic inflammation, right? We have autoimmune disease, right? And this is one of the reason, not the main reason, but it is one of the reason because
Yeah.
we are not eating the way where biologically was designed for the specific region based on ancestry diet. So back to my patient.
Yep.
When I retested them, my first patient, the one who did great, she was actually from Greece. And that's totally explained why she loves this diet. It was high in vegetables, seafood, olive oil, and very low on red meat. So that's why she was right. My second patient was from Poland,
Hmm.
and it was kind of like in the middle. So that's why she did relatively well. And my actually last patient, the one who didn't do so well, she was from Ireland. Yeah, and
Mm.
I did modify her meal plan. I had to add more fat and more protein.
Yes. Hmm.
And this is, so like almost counterintuitive because
Yeah.
usually we want more vegetables, less fat. She did amazing. Just
Love
making
it.
this modification that, increase fat and increase protein, and she did
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, so that's why very important to do science-based weight loss. Yeah.
No, I agree. And one thing I'll share in my experience is, I always ate 1,200 calories a day. Like I've just always been that
That's
my
not bad.
entire life. I mean, until recently. And then I remember, it's probably perimenopausal time. I know I was somewhere between 35 and 40, maybe early 40s, that I like a little weight started creeping on. And
Mhm.
then so I went to someone to get help, and they're like, "Oh, you don't eat enough calories. Like you need to eat more and you need to eat this many carbs and this," because everyone's just holistically doing, right? And then I did
Yes,
Whole30 on my own for 40 days, which is very similar to how I'm eating on your plan now, and I loved it. I like thrived. I was never hungry. It was great.
perfect.
Like even the whites of my eyes looked whiter, and I was
Uh,
just like, this great. But as you go try to get help. And the same thing happened when I had trainers. I remember telling trainers, like, no, no, like you're putting too much muscle on me. I want to be like tight and like
leaner,
narrow,
leaner.
right? And I mean, this is funny. I had one trainer who was a male, and I was like, my butt's getting a little too big. And he was like, there is no such thing as April. Okay, but you're imposing your values on my body,
On my
right? And
body.
I feel this happens, this is why you have to get the right match. But like, I love like when my mom and I came to you and, we already were waiting for the genetic test, but you did the body scan, we'll do blood test. And so it is very customized because at this point I'm 48. So it's like, okay, I've done Whole30. I've done the carnivore diet, since I started the struggle like 7 years ago of weight creep.
Perfect.
Like I've tried, I did keto for a month, like strictly did keto and lost 5 pounds, and that's it. Like I couldn't get more off. And it's just like, okay, what's going on? And what's so crazy is one thing we already found when you did my body scan is I do have slower metabolism. You said it should be 1,700 for women over 40, and mine's like 15
Yeah.
something. So I
Mm-hmm.
intuitively was correct when I was keeping myself at 1,200 calories my whole life.
1,200.
And then multiple nutritionists, wellness experts, trainers, whoever it was, tried to convince me that I actually wasn't eating enough, but they weren't looking at my specific
And the science
makeup.
on your specific
Yes.
case. Yeah, very, very true. Yeah.
Just yesterday on the Vixen Founders Collective, we were talking about physiology. We did a coaching session on that. And, I said, hey, what are you all struggling with or doing well? And a lot of women are struggling with perimenopause, menopause. And, I have watched people scientifically explain that you're in hormonal imbalance if you're having extreme symptoms, but it's almost like, oh, it's just menopause or, oh, it's just perimenopause. And same with the weight creep.
Disregard. Yeah.
Right. Instead of, okay,
Yes.
well, what could I do to make this experience better? And I just want to emphasize that because, I think God put us on this earth to live an amazing life. And if we're not, like you said, looking our best, feeling our
Yeah.
best, doing the work we're meant to
Enjoy
do,
every morning. Yes.
yes, then something's wrong. And I just, I really emphasize like making an impact with women, and women are such givers and doers, and like take this time for yourself. So I'd love to, share some tips you've already helped me with in 2 weeks, but I kind of want you to dig in. I'm guessing you see this a lot with the women you work with, right? By the time you get to mid 30s, definitely in your 40s, definitely in your 50s, my mom's 74 and we came to you. Like you're totally confused about what the heck you should be eating, how you should be
Very
exercising.
true.
And it's not from lack of trying, it's just like complete confusion. So, do you see that often?
Yes. So it is very good question. First is it's so many different books, so many different
Yeah.
blogs, so many different diets. And actually, if you Google amount of diets, you can actually hit number 100. And they all written by some expert. Remember, you always find expert who is focused on keto diet. Some people focus
Yeah.
on just vegetarian. And you read, here's an MD or somebody who is well-known dietitian, and you see opposite opinions. and you're not
Mhm.
expert and you feel that who can I trust? And you try
Yeah.
this and you try that and you're just confused, right?
Mhm.
So this again kind of go back to I am very excited. Hopefully in 2 weeks we'll have your test and your mom
Yeah.
test and we can really see what is optimal diet for you. And I see all
Mhm.
different variation, like from some people who need to eat more carbs. Carbs actually, people when they look, I can eat more carbs, they assume I can eat more bread, more pasta.
Yes.
Carbs are vegetable. This is your fruits and vegetables. When I say carbs, I actually mean like really what come from nature as a motivation, right?
Yeah.
Some people I test and I see they can eat more fat, more protein, right? It's kind, it will be interesting to see. What actually, let's talk a little bit about menopause and what happens,
Mhm.
So in about, again, everybody a little bit different, but in the
Mhm.
age from 35 to 40s, you do kind of hormonally slow down.
Mhm.
And what we see is how does it affect it? Your estrogen, your progesterone begin to change a little bit. But from a weight loss standpoint, you actually metabolism begin to slow down. And it's actually a
Mhm.
protective mechanism. Most people don't know, in your 20s, you have more physical energy. If we go back to caveman, right? Our genetic actually is still based on the caveman genetics, even as
Yep.
society changed so dramatically. But we still deep down, biology, based on the caveman genetics. So in the 20s, right, you still have energy, you can be hunting, bear children. In 40s, you slow down. In nature
Mhm.
protect you. You don't need as much food, but slow down your metabolism, right? And of course, hormones and etc., right? So most females, they cut by surprise probably related to you. So, for example, you eat well, you eat same amount of calories, but after 40s, right, you begin to gain a little bit pound here, 2 pounds
Mhm.
there, until you really in 5 years period, you notice my pants doesn't fit, right? Because
Mhm.
you already gained 5, 6, 10 pounds. And the reason for this, so what is mean slow metabolism slow down? So in your 20s, you probably could eat 2,000 calories. You can have pizza, you can have bagels, and you
Yeah.
still remain maintaining your weight, right? Yeah. After 40s, this calorie requirement begins to slowly drop. So for most females, we anticipate, so what I see on average, about 1,700 calories for females between 40 and 50, right?
Mhm.
But I see some, for example, like in your case, right? Your calorie
Mhm.
is 1,400. So a little bit of science. In order for anybody to lose 1 pound per week, you need to actually create calorie deficit of 500 calories per day. So from your baseline, in your case, April, it is 1,400. We need to
Mhm.
subtract 500.
Mhm.
So in order for you to lose 1 pound per week, you eat 900 calories, what is very
Mhm.
little, right?
Mhm.
Another very important point. Remember, I do body composition analysis every appointment, and there's very important reason for that, right? Remember, 16 different markers uh, that I shared, but one of the most important is your muscle mass.
Mhm.
That's why it's important to do weight loss under medical supervision. Most people, so you lost 10 pounds, then you're like, yeah, I lost 10 pounds. But let's check your composition and see out of these 10 pounds, what was your fat and what was your muscle mass. If you lost 10 pounds and 5 pounds is muscle mass, and you lost 50% muscle mass, right? This is actually not a good weight loss. You will regain everything and more very soon because muscle
Mhm.
mass is linked to your metabolism, right? And
Right.
when your muscle mass begin to drop, your amount of calories began to drop in a practical term. So I gave you meal plan. My
Mhm.
meal plan on average from 1,000 to 1,200, kind of in this
Mhm.
range, right? So I calculated how much you need to eat, subtracted 500, but you're losing your muscle mass. So now my plan is not going to work for you because now you have to eat 900 calories to lose weight or even less.
Mhm.
Does it make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah. So that's why, weight loss is not just, find proper diet. And again, we find what you need to eat based on your genetic test.
Right.
Exercise, actually. I don't know if I mentioned to you during our appointment, but exercise is linked to genetic too. And let me give you an
Hmm.
interesting example. I remember one of the gym owners, she, very lovely lady, Nancy, she sent me one of her long-term customers. This lady was exercising for 3 years every day. She comes to gym, she exercises, she wants to lose 15 pounds.
Hmm.
And she couldn't. And she eats relatively well. Nancy felt really frustrated. And so was the customer. So she sent her lady to me. And I tested, I did genetic tests. And the result kind totally makes sense. When I tested her, if we divide physical activity into groups, you have cardio and you have resistance training. Genetically, we burn different amount of calories, cardio or resistance training. Also, some people burn a lot of calories and some people burn very little. When I
Hmm.
tested this lady, you know what I found out? She burned almost no calories cardio and very little resistance. So for weight loss strategy, specific, the exercise was not a best strategy, right? Exercise
Mm.
always good. It builds your muscles. It's help you with, muscle toning, cardio, fitness, etc., stress release. But specifically for weight loss strategy for her, diet was much more important.
Yeah.
So that's kind.
Yeah.
When your tests come back, we will see, and actually
Yeah.
genetic tests have a specific recommendation on exercise routine. So you will say, okay, for me, I need to do this, this, this. That will be optimal. Yeah. So we'll see what we find out in your case.
Well, I love that too, because I've heard certain things that, okay, if you're perimenopausal or menopausal, here's how you should exercise. And I've had this conversation with friends because we're all about the same age and my clients and dealing with this. But again, this is just across the board recommendations. So when you look at your genetic
Very
makeup,
genetic.
it absolutely may not be true. And I kind of, one thing came up to me when you were talking about different genetics. I remember my ex-husband, when he was Italian, and almost, I'd say 80% of them smoke, let's just say, the men. And so we always had this, I'd be
Mhm.
like, he lessened his smoking, but I could never get him to fully stop. And like we'd have this conversation, and he'd be like, "Well, my grandfather's 95 and he smoked his entire life." Okay,
Both.
but that's just his genetics. What if you don't have exactly the same genetics, right? So
Same
it's just
genetic.
like a lot of times we say these things in our lives, or people share these things with us, and like just understanding that we're unique and we have to figure out how we work. I mean, one thing, you're having me take a picture of all my meals and send, and you're like, they're very beautiful. Well, what I recognized since working with you, if my plate looks pretty, because you can tell behind me, I love color, I'm very aesthetic.
Oh,
So
looks
if
beautiful. Yeah.
Thank you. So if my plate looks pretty, I'm happy. Like, the other day I made the salad you suggested. It was like arugula, strawberries. I threw some microgreens
Perfect.
in and half a breast of grilled chicken. And it was so yummy, but it was so pretty. And so I found, okay, the more color I can put on my plate and my vegetables, etc., then I'm happy and
Perfect.
satisfied, and I'm not missing taste, and I'm not missing this. So, but that may not work for someone else. Like you said, genetically, we respond to different impulses differently. So I'm always a fan of become a student of yourself and figure out what works for yourself, because
Perfect. I love it.
yeah, one thing I realized, this in coaching and consulting and just speaking to my friends, at some point, particularly women, for some reason, want to ask 10 different people their opinion when they're trying to solve a problem. Well, you just got 10 different answers and confused yourself more. So,
That's a
I,
good, yeah. And you're like, where we have to learn about ourselves. And actually, when I give you a meal plan, remember,
yeah.
initially I give you my plan. But what
Mm-hmm.
I want you to do, remember, I always teach you every appointment. It's opportunity for me to teach you really about nutrition. So my goal
Yeah.
is when we're done, you have a formula and this actually works for you and it's your own meal plan.
Mm-hmm.
Everything I gave you, you can substitute. For example, some people don't like shrimps, or some people don't like seafood. Substitute with something else, or
Yep.
make salad the way you like it. That's my always goal. But I have to provide you with a little bit of foundation, a little bit of science. And actually, sometimes what I do, besides nutritional education, I do a lot of behavioral training, and you will be
Yes.
surprised. Like, for example, what is in your case? You travel a lot.
Hmm.
And travel is one of the challenging component of the staying healthy and eating well. Sometimes you just don't have good
Yep.
choices. Sometimes you're too tired. Sometimes you don't have time. So I trained people even how to travel, how to choose right restaurant, how to choose stuff on the menu, even to the point sometimes I provide them with like step strategy and script. Like, for
Hmm.
example, one of my favorite, I always teach people. Sometimes I make people, very shy people, practice in my office. Like, for example, don't be hesitate to substitute. If you get
Yeah.
rice with fish, ask for vegetables. Feel
Yep.
comfortable, your customer. And when you train them over and over again, that's what I want to establish new, not just eating habits, but also behavioral habits so you can
Hmm.
uh, make the choices comfortably, almost automatic.
Yeah.
Restaurant on the side, substitute. So a lot of kind of behavioral changes too.
Yeah, I love that. And even thinking about behavioral changes, one thing you emphasize to me is, hey, your days are often so hectic because my mom was there with me and sometimes I'm working from her house, so she sees I'm just like boom 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 boom
Oh,
Zoom
work,
calls,
work, work.
and I end my day early, but until I end, so breakfast and lunch tends to suffer because they're in that jam period. And so you were really like, April, I need you to put 30 minutes for breakfast and 30 minutes for lunch on your calendar. If you can do it the same time every day, better. And I did that. Luckily, it was a period where I could infuse. Well, now I look forward to 8 o'clock for breakfast and 12:30 for lunch. And like
Awesome.
I go
That's
upstairs and I
wonderful.
get sunshine and I take a breath and like I just enjoy
Well
that
done.
time. And one thing
Your
that it brought.
time.
Yes, and that's one thing I that it brought back to me is when we're in that go go go, we get disconnected from our bodies, disconnected from our food, disconnected from nature, and really taking that time and like honoring the food, because I'm very spiritual, as you know, and just honoring like blessing the food, thanking Mother Nature for the food, like thanking God
Be
for
grateful.
providing. And yeah, and really connecting. So now it's almost like a ritual because it's just me,
I'm
myself,
so
and
proud of
I.
you.
Thank you.
I'm
Well,
so proud of you. You know what? Changes are tough, they're uncomfortable, but it's also almost like create your path. You had
yeah.
this path and now you have to rebuild it. But making changes is very, very difficult, but it's worth it. And you are right now kind of rebuilding your foundation
Yes.
for the future to make it easier. And I'm so proud of you that you was
Mm-hmm.
making to make these changes to schedule time for yourself, especially lunch stuff. So morning sets the tone for the day. Here you are collecting your thoughts,
Yeah.
you're grateful to the world, you eating your,
Mm-hmm.
breakfast, eating your body. But lunch stuff because you already kind of hijacked by the business of day and it's
Yes.
tough and everybody calling, you almost feel guilty. But I am so great that you did it. You kind of snap out of it, time
Yeah.
for yourself, and you're probably more productive the
Thank you.
rest of the day. And you don't get so hungry.
Yeah. Well, I love it. And I want to thank you for encouraging me to do that because that connection, I knew I needed to reconnect with food. And that was part of it because I love food and I love good nourishment and I love healthy food. My mom made fun of me as a child. She was like, this is my healthy one. Like, I would choose the apple over the pizza, right? Like, I'm kind of just made that way. But you get so busy that you get disconnected and it's just something to put into your mouth. And so I think that reconnection is so important. And I think that's why working with someone, be it Elena or someone else you find that really specifically understands you, because you took time to realize my schedule and say, okay, this isn't going to work if you don't change your schedule. Like you basically told me that. And a lot of times, especially if you're a business owning woman, if you're like kind of I'm a very emotionally strong person. So people have a hard time telling me to do things, right? So I have to find that professional like you who's like, April, I don't care. I need you to do 30 minutes.
April, you're in trouble. Yes. Yeah. No, you're right. It's like, yeah, it's also create
Yes.
accountability. And you're probably surprised I told you what to do,
I
but
like
it's
it.
good. I only have I also tremendously enjoy the result. When you will come to me and we'll see you losing weight, you look great, you have to do your blood
Yes,
work.
I
Don't forget,
know.
right? We have to do blood work. Yeah. And what we usually see give me tremendous, actually, why I love weight loss. Because when you do weight loss, everything is reversible. So it's very seldom in life you have the chance to
Yeah, it's
reverse
true.
stuff. And the natural is like people come to me, sometimes they need to lose 100 pounds. They have high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, they knee hurt, they back hurt, they have sleep apnea, they have no energy. They just, have all this medication. What make me feel so sad. But 6 months later, right? Sometimes 12 months later, sometimes longer, they lose all this weight. I had a lady today, I had an appointment before our interview. She lost 73 pounds.
Wow.
And today she actually reached her goal.
Love it.
And when she came first, she had so many blood pressure medication, cholesterol fight. Now she doesn't have to take blood pressure medication. Her cardiologist slowly, oh, what amazing. So that's why weight loss is so rewarding to me. Not just you will look great, but also you can get rid of all your chronic condition. Most you can really reverse it. You definitely will improve it. Even diabetes. What a great goal. And you know what was amazing to me? So when we do your body composition analysis, one of the markers I check, it is your metabolic age. And unfortunately, people who gain a lot of weight, they accelerate aging. And when I checked the metabolic age, one of the most difficult information for me to share. So here's, for example, 50 years old female, but her metabolic age 62. And it's very, very, scary and sad and frustrating. But I always tell them, you can get younger. And people who lose weight, the same lady who lost their weight, so much weight, and got to the normal BMI after being really high BMI, she got younger by 8 years. Can you imagine? She came 8 years older. Now she's back to her normal biological age, and she looks great. So this kind of stuff, this is why weight loss is not just about fit and to dress, what is great, and we all should fit in our favorite dresses and look great, but also all this chronic medical condition get better. So that's one of the motivations.
No, I love it. And the other thing was, you were like, what size do you want to be? And I was like, I want to be a 4. And you're like, great, that's perfect for you. Most people are like, why do you want to be a 4? Why not be a 6? And I'm like, no, my whole life I was a size 4. I want to be a 4.
I love that. And for some reason, when we get older, people think, well, I'm old. It's okay, I'm overweight or size 12. Why? You don't have to. You can actually maintain your beautiful same clothes as you were in your 20s. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't. So it is another motivation and that excuse.
Well, I agree. And look, hey, I'm not saying everyone needs to be a 4. As you know, we're all built differently. Like my sister is an absolute runway model at a higher size, but I have a smaller frame. So for me, I feel I have to be a 4 to look my best. And I just liked how you were like, yeah, I agree. That's a great size for you. And same with the goal weight. A lot of people would tell me it was too low. And you're like, this is perfect. And I just like it because I feel we live in a world where people want to water down their goals out of fear of not reaching them. And so I
absolutely agree.
Yeah. And so I love that you were so cheerful in supporting my goals, which is how I try to work with my business coaching and consulting clients. Like, yeah, you want to make $1 million? Why aren't we making $1 million? You want to make 10 million? Why aren't we making 10 million? Let's figure it out, right? Because we really can do whatever we want.
I love that. And the way, I usually let you make your goal.
Yeah.
So sometimes when you are very tough, very accomplished, very successful, so you went right away for the goal you wanted to accomplish. And it's great. And I know we'll be there. I have some people who is maybe not as bright, and it's okay too. Somebody come to me and they need, in my opinion, lose 75 pounds, but they want to initially lose this 40 pounds. And I always say, goal is just my sense of direction. We get there and they feel confident, they achieve this goal, and then we set up another goal and another
Yes.
goal. So I let goals are so personal. So I let person depend on their personality and courage and makes this decision for themselves. And I can guide them, behind them, and motivate them. And, I'm your biggest cheerleader. Remember, I text my patient. I encourage you to feel comfortable. Not a lot of clinic. Actually, I don't know anyone. They will have, physician phone number. And I let everybody encourage you.
Yeah.
Please text me, have any questions. And my phone is ding, 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 ding all day
I
long.
know.
It's a different food coming in. But how can I love ask my patients to send me pictures of the food. And one of the reasons is first is, I will able to give you personal recommendation. Sometimes I see something on this plate, I enlarge it and I say, oh, what is it? Is it a piece of bacon or maybe mayo? And I pay attention and I can give them better alternative. And I never say it's horrible. I just say, good, but let me give you suggestions. So people don't feel overwhelmed, they don't feel afraid. So we focus on mild changes, but also it's create accountability. I usually tell, I probably told you, so April, if you don't want to send me these pictures, probably not good to eat it. And it's helping you to stay mindful, right? And you think about, okay, I need to send these pictures. Can you begin to more pay attention to what you eat? Because often we are so busy if we're looking for convenience and we're just grabbing whatever is here, what is not always good.
Yeah. And if you're listening, taking the picture was so easy. It's so much easier than calculating my carbs and protein like you do on keto, or like keeping a list of what you eat. Like, just keep in mind, this is something difficult. It is change. We've talked about how difficult change is. So how can you make it easy for yourself? Because I know when we walked out of your office, you sent us with the first week's meal plan, with a recipe book, like basically all these tools for us to immediately be successful. I didn't have to go home and say, okay, what am I eating the next week? Like,
what do I need to
what
do?
do I, instead I had it and I'm like, okay, let me make a grocery list from this meal plan and then go execute. I mean, if you want to make it easier, you order your groceries or you have someone go pick them up. Like, don't apologize. Whatever you need to do to be successful is what I think you should do. And one other thing I appreciated is, again, it's only been 2, maybe 3 weeks, but, my best friend was here Tuesday and I'd taken the afternoon off and, I knew we were going to go have a cocktail. So I told you, hey, I had a protein shake for lunch because I'm going to have a cocktail with my friend, like instead of food, lower calorie.
That's
And I
okay.
love it. You're like, it has to be sustainable. You have to live your life, because so many times people be like, don't have alcohol. And I know if you're having alcohol every day, you're not going to lose weight, but it's like my best friends in town. So it's funny because what we did is, because you're in my head, or because I'm very committed to this, I was like, we're going to take a walking tour of my neighborhood, and along the way we're going to get a drink, and then we're going to go to dinner, and we made a healthy choice for dinner.
So
Yes.
exercising. Actually, you brought a very, very good point that I actually did not mention, but I want to mention. I do not even use for diet, because diet is implying that you're doing something for a short period of time and you're suffering and you're struggling and you're depriving yourself. And as soon as you're done with this dieting, then you actually, the only what you switch back to the way only you know how you eat. And that's very important. What I actually want you to do, I want you to make small changes. And another interesting example, every new year, all of us on this planet, we make New Year's resolution. And actually, number one, everywhere New Year's resolution for the past 50 years, exercise more and lose weight. It's just the way everybody does the same resolution. And what happens when people are motivated, it's beginning of the year, I want to do better. They try to, the first 2 weeks, membership in the gym, they get skyrocketed. That's when everybody sign in. And we're so predictable. So most gym owners, I already sit and waited for people run and sign in. Just 2-3 weeks later, stop going to exercise. The reason for this, changes again very difficult, require a lot of self-control. So I actually practice. I read a lot about making changes, behavioral modifications. I actually really study as part of my program. And what I practice right now on the research support, changes should
Mhm.
be small. And one of the example I usually give, so for example, in regard of meal plan, right? So you make small
Mhm.
substitute. So instead of changing imagine you was eating fast food, and this is what you know, junk food. I do not anticipate the following day after you saw me, you're exactly going to
Mhm.
eat my meal plan. Otherwise, you're just not going to, it's too much. It's too difficult. It's too foreign, too strange, and you
Mhm.
just want like. So it's much better to focus. For example, I say, why don't we start drinking soda? We substitute with water. And the reason was it pictures, so I can actually make recommendation of
Mhm.
substitute, right? If it is exercise, and for example, first 2 months, when you come to see me, I only focus on how to help you modify your
Mhm.
eating habits. And the reason for that, first, eating what you eat, your meal plan is
Mhm.
80% of your success. Remember this in business, 80,
Right.
20% rule. So we're going to focus on what is the matter. And what matter is changing what you eat. Exercise is only
Mhm.
20%. Second reason for this, if you start going to the gym and you never went to the gym, right? And you are in the same time trying to change your eating habits, you just, your mind goes this almost the panic mode. So focus on one, make small changes, focus maybe start
Mhm.
bringing light, right? Or fat and make these changes gradual, comfortable.
Yeah.
Enjoy them, right? And after you, in few months, usually take for people some too longer to
Mhm.
change eating habit. Then we start working maybe exercise
Mhm.
routine, right? Because otherwise, it's
Yeah.
just we cannot make big changes. It requires
Well,
too much effort. Yeah, and we are all about
well,
making
yeah,
it
and then
easier.
the rebellious child in us comes out and we stop doing any of it because it's too much at once. So I like the gradual.
It's too much work. Yeah, and it should be also no, but we have
Mhm.
to enjoy our life.
Agreed.
We have to find this balance. I want to find this meal plan, not that can be somewhat, but they modify to you that you, in the same time,
Mhm.
enjoying your life. You can go for, have a drink with your friend without feeling
Mhm.
guilty. And at the same time, you're navigating through, challenging and sabotage at, your travel
Yep.
schedule, holidays. Sometimes you're too stressed, too tired, you have no time to eat, and still kind of manage 80% of the time you're true to your goals to eat food and and
Mhm.
continue to lose weight and until you reach your goal and then maintain it, right? So it's all about balance. I don't like restrictive diet because they usually at some point you snap and you know you're just going to
Yeah, I
give up
agree.
totally.
One more point I wanted to get in. I know we're almost out of time, Elena, and thank you so much for your time today. Is when we were there for our session, my mom and I, which was fun going together. And I have to tell you, it was so funny because my dad has gotten in this habit of eating ice cream every night. And so after we went to see you, and my mom came home and she's like, I'm doing this. My dad's like, fine,
Mhm.
I'm tossing the ice cream. Tonight's my last night. And he's like, I'm going to do this
Oh
to support
wow,
you. And I bring that
that's
up because your
wonderful.
environment does matter, right? Like, I mean, not that your husband or significant other or your kids have to jump on your diet plan, but you have to understand that if you're cooking one meal for your children because they're not eating what you're eating, I mean, I'm sure you've seen it's so much easier to cheat when you're like exposed to other things. Like, I bought a couple of snacks for my friend being here that I will not eat and
Yeah.
should not eat. I mean, they were like pistachios, nothing terrible, but not what's on my plan. And I was like, take them to the house where you're staying with your coworkers. Like, don't leave them here.
Good point. Actually, I have a lot of my patients who they have for example, teenage children,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or they have a big family. They just stop.
Yes.
When you're by yourself, or likely when you have a supportive dating husband, that's totally different because when you have a teenagers or husband who wants to continue
Yeah.
eating the way he used to eat with the junk food, and that's what our brain is craving. Environment is fundamental for two
Mm-hmm.
reasons. First is it's just when we see food, it's began to trigger release of dopamine. When it's began to trigger and craving come out, that's so much more difficult to stop. When you don't see it, right? You may not even think about this. I always remind people, don't keep like candy or cookies somewhere playing you because you may not even think about this, but here you're passing by and you see it, and you will most likely, trigger this release of dopamine and grab it. Have an apple, have a fruit plate instead, right? Second is, I want to mention about surrounding yourself with the people who actually eat well. It is a study was done. So, for example, if you are was normal BMI, but you join the group of females who is overweight, at some point you will become overweight because you adjusted not only is their behavior and what they order, but it's also you adjusting your baseline. Your baseline right now, not normal BMI, but already BMI much higher. Our friends really, really influence us, right? So it's very important. I'm not saying get rid of your friends, but especially when you are in the beginning stage, when you are still struggling to make these choices, definitely lean on people or surround yourself more with people who eat healthy. And we all have this. And actually, something else I want to mention, but I always emphasize that when you make this change, right, change should be from within. Let me give you an example. So, very kind of illustrate my point of view. Two people trying to quit smoking, and somebody offers them a cigarette. And one person said, "No, I'm trying to quit smoking." And the other person said, "I am not the smoker." Which one has a better chance to quit and remain a smoker?
The non-smoker.
Person who identify that I am not the smoker. So I want you to not think, oh, I have to eat this. I want you to identify yourself as a healthy eating person. Remember, if you vision yourself like this, your action has to support it, right? If you deep down, you think, I'm this person who eats junk food, but I have to eat this. Chances that you will succeed much, much less than somebody who say, I'm a healthy eater. And if we all have friends, we know, okay, he's healthy eater. I know he will order salad for lunch, right? And we all know what they will order. There will be salad and some grilled chicken.
Well,
no, they change, and this is something I teach them.
Yeah, and even your activities, because let's say you normally go to happy hour with your coworkers on Thursday or something. Like, okay, can we replace that with let's go walk in the park together and maybe we'll grab a cocktail, right? Like, because that made a, before when I did Whole30, and I know my friend who was here, I remember when she was like on her diet for her wedding, and I'd be like, no problem, let's go for a walk. Like, we can't go eat or drink, like, let's go do something healthy. So really just focus on connecting with people instead of the activity you have to do, I think makes a huge difference. One last thing, and then we'll wrap up, is I know you mentioned to me that psychologically, it takes about a year for your brain to reset to your new weight, because your body really, to survive, when you lose weight, it thinks, oh, something's wrong, like I've lost weight. So can you share that with us? Because I think, so many people focus on losing the weight, but they don't focus on the maintenance after the fact.
I mentioned today, one of my patients before this appointment, she just reached her goal. And I said, I'm so proud of you. You did amazing, was a long journey, but now is most difficult part. So I usually have in clinic, I have 2 phases. One is when you lose weight, and second, when you maintain it. And I always, after congratulated them and be proud of them, I always say, now is the most difficult part. And the difficult part, because the biology, from our biology, our body sees weight loss is a negative event. Because in the past, I remember we go back as a humans 500,000 years. And for biggest portion of our history, food was struggle. It was not available. It was very difficult to get. And we would go through period of no food in the winter time. So weight loss was always considered by our body. It's a negative event. And we still wired this way. So what happens is when you lose weight, and for example, if you came and your weight was, for example, 180, and then you lost to 140, your body still see 180 is a normal weight. And for in almost a year, it's trying to return to original weight. It's called weight. And what does it do to you? It's actually a very sneaky sabotage. And you have to know this. Number one, it's actually decreased the metabolism. So imagine it's holding up to every calories. Now eating, 1,500 calories for weight maintenance, you have to be careful because body is holding up to every calories. Metabolism drop. Second is what it does. It's make you hungrier. Your hormones, ghrelin and all other hormones that are responsible for appetite, is go up. So imagine your metabolism drop and your hunger go higher. How can we win? This is why I always tell this is most important days. If you hold that for 6 months least, but ideally for a year, your body goes to something called weight set point, right? It resets itself. And after you're maintaining it, it will consider a new weight as a new normal. And then it will be a little bit easier. But really, whatever you was eating on the weight loss phase does be a little bit calorie and we're maintaining it. Yeah. But it's a very bit, it's actually not well known fact, but we know so many people who lost weight and regain it. But this is one of the reasons because body is really desperately want to go back to your original weight. And you work so hard and it's not going to happen. Yeah. That's great for it.
And so it takes about a year, I think you shared with me, for your body
About
and your brain to readjust. Yes.
Yeah. Yes, because it's the hormonal change, it's kind of shift and at some point that will be if you hold on for as long and you solidify your healthy eating habits. I have a lot of my patients that they successfully accomplish this and they maintain weight beautifully. Yeah. So, but it's it's an effort. Yeah, but I think it's definitely worth it. Yeah.
I think it's important to know. Well, Lena, again, thank you so much. Unfortunately, we're out of time. Thank you for sharing your wisdom.
So
share with us before we log off, if anyone's listening and they would love to get in touch with you, how do you work with your clients? I think you have a very generous discount offer for us. And by the way, Elena will share with you how you can get in touch with her and how you can follow her. But all this information will be in the show notes. You can go to vixengathering.com/podcast. And if you have not, subscribe to the podcast so that all of these amazing resources get sent to your inbox. So, Elena, I'd love to hear, how can our listeners follow you, connect with you? Maybe if they want to work with you, what does that look like?
Thank you, April. I have a website. The name of the company called SlimGe with an X. And we have a really informative, detailed website for your information. You can look at www.slimgenetics.com. If you still have some additional questions, we have present on the Facebook, or just give us a call, schedule appointment. I see patients with hybrid clinic. I like to see them in clinic, but for somebody who is located out of state or a little bit remote, I see people through virtual appointments, and a lot of people find, especially people who travel, very, very convenient. So you have two choices. You can schedule appointment online through SlimGenetic.com. You can call and schedule appointment too. And if you're located locally in the Houston area, you can come and see me in person, or you can just schedule appointment through a website through virtual appointment. If you want just to do a DNA-based meal plan, if you are healthy, you don't struggle with weight, it's still a good option just to know what you need to eat to maintain your weight. And you can just purchase genetic test. It's not very expensive yet. And we have a big discount this month in the fall. We'll give, especially for the listener of the podcast, we'll give 20% discount for, the person free.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Elena.
Thank you so much. It was pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me, and they keep doing great work, making all these changes. And, I'm always here for you. Text me anytime if you have any questions about what to eat or, just need to support.
I will.
Yeah. Pleasure meeting you.
You too. I look forward to our meeting Monday. Take care of my parents today when they come to see you. And for everyone listening, as you know, I always say the world needs more love especially right now. So, how can you show up in love? Today, we're talking about yourself. How can you show more love to yourself, your physical body, and to the food that you eat? Let's really connect and enjoy the beauty of what this beautiful earth gives us. So, everyone, have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you soon. Thanks again for listening to the podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to hit subscribe so future episodes are automatically downloaded directly to your device. And if you want access to today's show notes, including links to all the resources we mentioned, visit vixengathering.com/podcast. Thanks again for listening, and I'll catch you next week for another episode of The Vixen Voice.